green tea doesn't help you lose weight. Picking up the green tea by yourself, climbing the hill, and then making the tea, perhaps might. If you think wellness is expensive, try illness.
One health tip you give others but never follow yourself.
Sleep on time.
Entrepreneurship in one word, how would you define it?
A roller coaster ride. Every time that I have failed from one idea, and because that is also a starting point of a pivot, that's something that I'm proud about. So, what do you take away from that? What do you learn from that? Okay,
If AI took over your job tomorrow, what would you do instead?
I'm very certain that it can't. So, just giving information and what you should do is not going to help. So, it requires a lot of human interactions, coaxing, cajoling, everything. Yeah, AI can't do that. Okay.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Leadership Unplugged, the alumni edition. It is always interesting to talk to our alumni, especially if they are a decade old. Today, I have the pleasure of chatting with Rajiv Ambat, who graduated in the year 2011 from our PGPM program. He's gone on to have a great career, and interestingly, he pivoted to becoming an entrepreneur. So it is really our privilege to have Rajiv with us. Welcome, Rajiv.
Thank you.
How is it being back?
Oh, it feels great. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. Rajiv, tell us a little bit about you were working in the finance sector. You're so deeply into, serious investment banking sort of work. And then why this sudden jump to, let me start something? When did the entrepreneurship bug actually bite you, and why?
Okay, so I joined I was fortunate enough to also get this switch. Of course, I did work for it, and then I joined this company. It was called Wealth Advisors. Now they got acquired. They were into, and I was into the team which manages the investments of large corporates. So it was primarily a research driven. You'd have to track macroeconomics. You have to go through when is the industrial production
So
data
you actually
coming.
used all that you studied.
I did. Actually,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I was into all that, right? And at some point of time, because I was also interested in sales, and my seniors probably found that maybe this person has a potential to go in and interact with clients. Because even when you're in the research team, it is also a bit of sales, because you also have to build a rapport relationship with whom you're working with.
Yeah.
And that's important. Only then they will also trust your instincts and whatever that you say and information and all that, right? So in that sense, it is also nuances of sales. It becomes very, very important. And that's one thing that I actually learned during Great Lakes. So I came to MBA thinking that, sales and marketing no, that's not something that I want to. A lot of people
Let me
actually.
tell you one thing. That hasn't changed a bit.
Is
If
it?
you ask me this, if you ask the students today in the class, nobody wants to take a sales role. So I'm hope in the
Right.
next few minutes you will debunk this whole thing and say take sales.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
So I do tell people that sales is not just about knocking the door and then saying that, hey, I have this book to sell or I have this shampoo to sell. That's probably what people relate to, and that's what even I related to. But when I actually got into this, I realized that even relationship is also a sales in some way or other, right? Need not necessarily be transactional, but there's a particular way that I'm supposed to be dealing with my friend or my wife or my kids, and there are expectations there, right? And it's a fact. So I realize that sales and understanding of how you deal with people, how you kind of navigate through disagreements and still get the stuff that you want to do or get done is a very important aspect of not just a sales and marketing role, but in life itself.
Yeah.
And that's very important, and that's also a very important aspect of being a leader, because you would have to deal with people with varying ideas, disagreements, and all that. So I think that's something that. So I was like, no, only finance and only capital markets. But thankfully, when I joined this job work, I learned a lot, picked up a lot of things in this role. So even though it was research, I started talking with people, and then they realized that, okay, maybe this guy should actually go out and meet these treasury people and build that relationship and continue to nurture that. And at some point of time, they thought maybe this guy should also go out and meet new people and see if you can build relationships there and bring in that
Okay.
investments. So that's how I moved from Chennai to Bangalore, because that was somewhere around 2012, 13, that around that time, the Flipkarts and Mintras of the world are going ahead, left, right, center, raising capital.
Yeah.
So it was important to build a relationship. And I still remember my boss telling me that for the 1 hour discussion that you will have with the treasury guy, um, that entire 1 hour you're not going to talk about markets. You probably talk about why the tomato prices have risen,
Yeah.
or how the Bangalore traffic is like this,
Yeah.
and things like that. And probably the last 10-15 minutes is where you would get into the crux of the
Yeah.
thing. So if you think sales is just about you are good at finance and you have numbers at the back of your hand and
Yeah.
that will clinch the deal, that's not how
That's
it
not
is. And especially a B2B sales works most in terms of relationship building and trust and everything.
Very,
B2C
very interesting to hear this. I mean, it looks like sales really was one of the triggers to your pivot. But how did this startup thing? I mean, I know
Oh.
around that time, this whole startup thing was catching up in India. I mean, that was the time when Flipkart and everybody got started, and they were really seriously on the market. It was all hot. But what was your personal moment which said, okay, now I have to, because it is. You were in a good job, you were growing, it looked like your managers loved you, and therefore they wanted you to grow and so on. So, leaving that, that must have been a big decision. So, what led you to
Triggered
that?
me,
Yeah, what
yeah.
triggered? Yeah.
So there's nobody in my family remotely related to business or
Oh,
entrepreneurship.
that makes it even more interesting
yeah,
to know.
yeah. So, but for me, when I moved to Bangalore and I started interacting with startups, like I earlier said, you don't just go ahead and then talk just about markets to raise money. You would also have to do a little bit of background understanding of where that person came from. So I remember getting this meeting with, there was a company called Taxi for Sure then in
Yeah,
Bangalore, which
yeah.
got acquired by Ola.
Yeah.
I remember going and meeting the founders, and I had to kind of go through his background and what did he do and his previous experience, read up whatever material was available before going and talking to him, right? And I found it very, very interesting that the journey that they have been through. So slowly and steadily, that will have sort of a rub-off effect,
Yeah.
So I also wanted to do that. And it was, to be very honest with you, it was also sexy to be a
Yeah.
startup
Yeah,
entrepreneur,
yeah.
right? You don't understand the difficulties that follows that. So it was a little bit of that naivety also, and so that's when I thought, okay, I also want to do something like this, and I'm, as I earlier said, I'm a very, very curious soul. So I wanted to try out something new, and that's when I thought, let me take the plunge.
So Rajiv, this is very interesting. You said you want to start. That was decided. Then, but you had to choose somewhere to play this game. And how was that choice? Was it like the obvious? Okay, I've worked in finance. I know exactly what the opportunities are. Let me get started. Or was it like, okay, let me look at all the opportunities in India and then say, okay, here are 5 pros, cons, payoff analysis, and they say, this is the best, let's start. Or was it like something, more emotional, something that's more subjective to you? How did
It was
all begin?
actually the last one that you said,
Oh,
more of
okay.
an emotional thing.
Interesting.
So I'm from Kerala, and I grew up in a village. I currently live in Cochin, but I grew up in a village, and I have never gone outside Kerala until I got my first job, which was in GE in Hyderabad. So I still remember, I was like, I've not seen outside world going and joining this company, and there are people coming from different parts of the country joining there. And for such a person, you would be confused as to how and what and how to interact and how to take the career forward and all that. Luckily, I have been very fortunate enough to have people around me who has helped me with right advice, information, and right hand holding and mentoring. So mentoring was very, very close to my heart. So when I wanted to start something of my own, my first choice is that, hey, listen, I was able to do fairly well in my career and do whatever that I wanted to because of the right people giving me right advice at the right time.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of take that forward. And so my first startup was actually in education space.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a mentoring platform, a platform which puts students across, MBA students. We started with management students across industry experts for mentoring.
Okay.
And we also got in a social angle to that. So we told mentors that, hey, listen, you're helping somebody who has the ability to pay to build their career, and they will charge. We'll take a platform fee,
Okay.
and you get the remaining amount. That with that amount, you either can take that money home, or you can take that money and fund the education of a girl child.
Oh, okay.
That
so you
way.
brought a kind of social
Social
cost to
cost
it.
as well. We'll give an ATG certificate and all that. That's how
wonderful.
we started.
Okay.
So phenomenal response from the mentors. People were ready to help, and according to their time and availability, right? Say a marketing guy in Hindustan Unilever sitting in Bombay will be able to help students in some college build their career,
Yeah.
mentor, help, and advice, and all that, right? That way. But what happened was that students need not necessarily understand the need for mentoring.
Right.
At that time, this was a long research, I mean, many years
Yeah,
back
yeah.
that I read this. This is in 2013, 14, that time. Only 8% was the employability of MBA grads. I don't know how these numbers have changed
Yeah,
now.
it doesn't look like it's changed much.
Is it? Yeah. So I still remember that graph, that there are the institutes like the IIMs and the Great Lakes of the world wherein the employability is very high and it drops significantly down. So, and that's the major chunk. So 92% or major, perhaps more, are like not immediately employable. And there's a cost to the corporate to actually get them trained. So we thought
there was
this
a
is
clear market need.
There was a clear market need. But then the fact was the takers who would actually pay for it I realized that they understand after they finish the course and probably start a job. And that's when they realize that they have to work on building their skills and other things. So that kind of bombed.
Okay.
So I had to pivot.
Okay.
So it was a B2C model, right? Selling it to the students. From the B2C model, I pivoted to a model which is more of a B2B. So I kind of white labeled a platform, reached out to colleges and said, hey, here is a mentoring platform. I will white label it for you with your logo and coloring and all those things, whatever that you want, branding and all that. And then we will run a sort of a interaction thing with the industry experts.
Yeah.
And whatever that you want on top of we can, and then the college will actually pay up for it after. So, and we thought we'll run a pilot run with few colleges. Again, the same problem, because in most university, and this is needed mostly for the tier 2 colleges or tier 3 colleges, right? In a college like ours, students
Probably
come with
less
some
required.
experience.
Yeah,
they already
yeah,
are connected. Alumni is there, and
That's right.
Right. So there we had this issue, and the problem there was that this is not part of their university requirements,
Yeah,
right? So engaging or using this platform is not even part of their marks or academics or grades, right?
Anything
so that
non-academic.
so that also kind of
Okay.
So this was my actual first startup, which didn't fly.
So what happened? I mean, you started, you left a good job, you started one after the other, it bombed again and again. So did you say, okay, let's just give all this up, let's get back to work, or what was it for you next?
Interesting. So, after this startup, the first one failed, and the pivot also failed. The B2C failed, pivoted to B2B, that also failed. Obviously, we are human beings. I started looking at myself and I started questioning myself. What the hell am I doing? Obviously, you would start comparing with your batchmates and your classmates and how they
Did
are.
it lead to a lot of self-doubt?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Those were the time of, now not many people are on Facebook. They're all moved to Instagram. But I still remember people checking in from Bangalore airport, traveling to New York. Check after a week or two, check in from New York, traveling to London maybe, right?
I think that was hurting you more than the startup failure.
We would compare, right? More than that, it was actually the money.
Yeah.
I know I was prepared that startups running a startup of your own and doing all by yourself is difficult.
Yes.
I knew it. But in reality, I realized it's 100 times more difficult. How much ever you prepare for it, it's when you're actually in it, it's tough. So this startup bombed, and that's when we got this good news that we are pregnant. We are expecting our first. I was married at that time. After marriage is when I left the job and decided to take this. And my wife was been extremely supportive.
Multiple risks at the same time.
Thinking about it, this happened, and we got this news that we are expecting. Very happy and all that.
Yeah.
After an hour or so, I was like, oh, shit. This means a lot more expenses. And we were in Bangalore at that time. So I actually did start looking out for job, right? And a failed entrepreneur is like a hot selling thing, right? People would scramble to get a failed entrepreneur.
Yeah, of late it's become so attractive.
Yeah, but they come with a lot of experience,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so I did get a job with HSBC and very well paid job, and I was immediately asked to fly to. I was given a role with the global banking and retail banking and wealth management analytics team. A very small team, sits based out of the Bangalore. The Bagmani Tech Park, the one that at that time they had an office in Delhi and then in London. So they're like, join here after the induction, fly to London and meet the team there and come back and all that, like, a typical
Fancy,
corporate fancy
yeah.
thing that everybody would want. I wanted it.
Yeah.
So I was relieved, and then sent all the documents and everything, and
Some relief from that pain of
not having money, to put it bluntly. So and then towards the time when I was about to join, I again started having this thing that I wanted to do be an entrepreneur, and
should I accept failure?
should I accept failure? So I remember my wife telling me one thing that if you're taking this up, I don't want you to feel, oh, I should have given one more chance to the entrepreneurship journey. Then that would be very difficult. You can't go back in time and change it, right? But if you want to try it one more time, you can. If not this, you probably will get some other job. That the chances of it is there. So you decide at the end of it.
She truly acted as the angel investor
Oh, she did.
for you.
Yeah. She
Of
did.
sorts,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, we'll manage the pregnancy and all those things with some gold that we have. So that's how that's. So then that was also the time that I also got into sort of depression. I mean, I'm not sure if I was clinically depressed because I did not go diagnose it as a clinical depression, but I had all signs, right? I also did a PG psychology recently, so now I understand that I had all the signs of depression. So I would never step out of home. I had terrible gut, always have acidity, never get proper sleep, and all that thing. So again, a very close friend of mine told me that, Rajiv, you should do something. You should. I'm a trained classical music singer, so you should start learning music again, and please start exercising.
Okay.
That will help you at least think clearly and find out how to kind of navigate this. That's how I get into exercise mode, and that is how the next startup thing started, and that's how I got into the healthcare field. Yeah.
No, you touch upon a very sensitive topic in society today. This whole idea of mental health and well-being, right? There's quite a bit happening in this space, and I think a lot of people keep reiterating this, that as we become a richer country, we shouldn't get into lifestyle challenges that many countries in the West are facing. So, for example, things like loneliness, depression, lifestyle disorders, mental health, etc. So, tell us a little bit about this space. Is it really true that we are going through these kind of things? What's the state of affairs in India?
Very much, very much. So, India is the soon to be the diabetes capital of the world, right behind China, right? And the funny thing is that we are also a country used to track protein inflation. Right? Okay. Protein inflation, because why is it an important indicator? Because we had issue of malnutrition and not being able to give enough amount of protein for people, right? So the government wanted to also track the protein rich food. How are the price of changing for that? So that's something that we also track, right? So we grapple with the malnutrition on one side, and then we are also fastly moving into the lifestyle disorders, primarily related to excess calories, right? So earlier the issue was the other way around. So it is very much a reality. And also with rapid urbanization, I mean the changing lifestyles, moving out to different cities, the work schedules.
The general growing middle class, I mean people with more disposable incomes, lifestyle changes, would that also have contributed?
Very much, very much. Stress is another factor. India is the world's, I think it's the second most sleep deprived country after Japan.
Wow, that is...
So sleep is another issue. So yes, we have all the recipes for the disaster with regards to things, the way it is going on. And sadly, we have one of the most pathetic genetic makeup wherein we are more susceptible to cardiovascular disorders. Our genes are such that we are more susceptible to insulin resistance related diseases such as diabetes. So so that is yet another thing. So we have that. It's a ticking time bomb if we don't take care of it.
So one way of looking at this is to think of this as a problem, and it is becoming a problem with a large society like ours. But another way of looking at it, and I'm assuming you put on the entrepreneur hat and look at this problem. Obviously, it's not a problem to you anymore. You're seeing opportunities there. So, what sort of opportunities did you see, and do you see now in this space? And how did you choose which one to go after?
Okay, so picking it up from what I earlier said about my failed healthcare startup, right? So when I got into this field, or rather when I kind of decided to start working out and exercising just to make me feel better, is when I realized that telling students to become healthy is not to become ready for the job may not necessarily work, but tell them to help them to build six-pack abs and look sexy and look great probably might stoke some interest. So that's how I pivoted. Okay, so the same first platform which put students to industry expert, I moved all industry experts and gotten the gym trainers.
Oh.
So that's how I pivoted. Okay, so it was
another pivot.
That was my second pivot. So when I got into that field, initially it was more of looking good is a must-have, becoming healthy is a nice-to-have.
Yeah.
You know, that's how the target segment is. Like, I'm looking at 20-something people, and they don't have the disposable income. Slowly realized that somewhere around 30s would come, and their requirement is slightly the other way around. Becoming healthy is a must-have, and looking good is a nice-to-have for them. Right,
Okay.
and they
So
have the
it
disposable
kind of
income.
flips
The thing,
yeah.
right?
Okay.
So the way they look at health and wellness and how they want to become healthy, and what they want to do is also slightly different. So that's how I got into this field. And when I got into this field, coming to the question that you asked, is when I realized that there's a lot of gap around how a person wants to become healthy. Now, typically, if a person wants to become healthy, there are three options in India. Probably can go to a nutritionist, dietitian. Option 2 is to go to an exercise expert, say a gym trainer, yoga trainer, Zumba trainer. Option 3 is to go to a hospital, clinic, doctor. Now, all the three has its benefits, but there are certain missing parts to it. For example, nutritionist cannot necessarily go deep into the idea of fitness. Fitness is about looking good, younger, being physically active and all that, right? So they don't necessarily get into workouts and muscles and anatomy and all that, right? But they understand clinical side of nutrition. Now, option 2, they understand exercises. They understand fitness. But they can't look at a liver function test and tell you what does SGOT mean and SGPT mean, right? That's a gap there. Hospitals and clinic are more into pharmaceutical, therapeutic management of lifestyle disorders. They can't facilitate a lifestyle change, meaning handhold, follow-ups, check-ins. Did you do this? Did you not do this?
So it's not preventive of sorts.
It's not preventive of sorts, right? And preventive healthcare is not just about having some supplements or this thing. It's about how you change the lifestyle. And the real lifestyle question is, oh, I want to make dinner today, but I don't have cabbage, can I have cauliflower instead? Okay. Right? That's a real, how much of a silly it sounds. That's a real question, right? So that gap needs to be filled. And that's how I got into this field. And I've realized that too much of information is a problem.
Okay.
Because you get...
it's conflicting at times.
It's conflicting. It's extremely, and more so in healthcare, it's extremely conflicting. A lot of it is unregulated. Information is a problem. And people kind of scramble, sometimes, there's this saying, if you can't confuse people to sell something. So that happens. So these are all the gaps which are out there. And then, of course, with the advent of AI coming in now, wearables was something that people have been talking about and as an interesting space. The preventive side, equally the curative side also is going through a huge amount of change and everything. But I don't think it still has all of it has been integrated well enough. But they still work in silos. The preventive side and the curative side still work in silos. Integrating both and working together is not something that we have seen much yet.
Interesting. So when you say, just one quick question before we move on to understanding more about Nuvo Vivo and what it does. But you talk about integrative medicine, which is now a little bit kind of a buzzword. So a lot of people, even doctors today, are talking about, let's not just take medicines to correct the problem. Let's also look at lifestyle changes and, in the long term. So integrative medicine is coming up. So is that a space that has some sort of order to it, or is it still an opportunity landscape?
It is very much, and I think it is a need of an hour. Right. Earlier you were asking about how India is becoming, and I told you about it as being the diabetes capital. It is not just about lack of resources anymore or lack of knowledge anymore. There are the real problem is a lot more deep rooted. I'll give you in statistics. The diabetes prevalence of India is somewhere around, I think around 12%. Okay, the most literate state, Kerala, the state that I am from, the diabetes prevalence is more than double the national average.
Oh my God.
Okay, so it begs the question that is it that a diabetic Malayali does not know what he should not do or what he should do with regards to the lifestyle? I'm sure he would know, for a 100% literate state, would know to reduce sugar, include fiber, have protein and do some exercise. In spite of it, if this is the case, the real problem is not just data. And for a socially upward healthcare, which a state which is very much invested into healthcare, it is not lack of resources infrastructure either. So the issue, as I said, partly is also because of the genes that we have. We are more susceptible. It's like we're just waiting to get some problem to catch on to that.
Whether we do anything or not, we'll catch it.
So that is also there, but it is also as to how it is integrated into. I mean. We used to do, I still remember my grandmother taking buckets of water from the well. Okay, she never used to do any walking as an exercise or whatever, right? I remember she used to make this coconut chutney with that amikal, right? And that is almost 4-5 kilograms, right? You have to lift it, and
it's almost like doing the weights.
Very much, which is what I do, right? The water that I lift from the well, that my granny used to lift from the well, is what I do as a seated cable row in the gym now, right? So it works out the same this thing. So people who used to be physically very, very active, which is reduced significantly, and hence lifestyle disorders have increased. Earlier, the life expectancy of India, of course, it has improved, but earlier people used to grapple with the communicable diseases like a tuberculosis or a jaundice or things like that, right? Now that has been taken care of because there are medicines, vaccines, and everything. But now the lifestyle disorders, communicable diseases.
Sorry to interrupt, but what I also hear now is that we don't want to become a rich, old, but unhealthy India. Right. So how do we avoid that? So longevity is increasing. I think the question that you are kind of hinting towards is, fine, is it enough to just live long, or is it good to actually be healthy when you're actually living longer? Are you having longer active lives, healthy lives? So I think it also begs that question to ask, like, should we focus on quality? Is that what you're hinting at? Quality of the longevity. So longevity is increased.
Very much. What is the point in living a life in a wheelchair and not being able to enjoy life? Right? It's actually it's a torture.
And you think like we can do this by changes much earlier in life. That's what you.
True. And I am a believer of all good things in life are simple.
Okay.
All good things in life are simple. The idea of becoming healthy, people talk about many things. I keep saying it's like, when you study for an exam, you would have a syllabus. Quite naturally, you would study from the syllabus, right? Only 2% will come out of the syllabus, right? After studying the syllabus, you worry about that. The syllabus of becoming healthy has only 3 modules. Eat healthy, do some physical activity, sleep well, and manage stress.
Right.
All the remaining things that we hear in WhatsApp universities. Should I drink ginger? Should I drink lemon? Or do I add honey to it? These are all not wrong, but falls in the remaining 2%. Right? Without doing the first 3, not going to take it there. So as I earlier said, keep it simple, and that's very, very important. So we also need to go back into our roots, understanding how we used to do things earlier, while we very true to how we the Great Lakes motto, right? The global mindset, right? But the roots has to be. And that's very, very, very important.
That's very interesting that you truly live the Great Lakes values Yeah, wonderful. So, how does Nuvo Vivo come into the picture in this? What solutions did you bring to the market that you started addressing some of these problems, and how did the startup get off the ground? And
So we are into what we call as medical fitness. I'll give an example. Fitness is about looking great,
Yeah.
being muscular for a
Yeah,
man. Or,
yeah.
you know. So, but say a person is diabetic. You can't just reduce carbohydrates, increase protein, and go to gym and work out without checking certain medical parameters, such as kidney health.
Oh.
You need to look at creatine levels because uncontrolled diabetes can perhaps could have damaged kidney, condition called diabetic nephropathy, in which case increasing protein can further worsen the kidney health.
Okay.
Right. So if you actually diabetic, let me have a lot of protein powder and manage this may be a recipe for disaster. So there is a medical nuance and understanding becomes relevant there. So you can't just look at a mere simplistic reduce carb, increase protein to become healthy.
So this is sounds a bit scary. So a lot of us actually just look up some of these things available, saying, "Hey, you know what? If I just do exercise randomly, I'm going to feel better." But what you're saying is it's much more nuanced
Absolutely,
than that.
absolutely.
So
The
they
example that
require-
I gave was about nutrition.
Yeah.
I can give the same thing. A person who's having a particular, say, did a treadmill test or probably is panting and gasping when climbing stairs. You don't know if the person has probably a block in the heart or mild block, or probably, or it might just be because his hemoglobin levels are low, right? Blood, it might be anemic.
Yeah.
Many reasons could have contributed to that, right? But without testing for that, if he decides to become healthy and start running for a marathon,
Yeah.
right? So
That's risky.
So that's risky, right? So understanding that part and bringing in exercise and integrating that with clinical nutrition, that's what is medical fitness.
Okay.
So while we deal with lifestyle disorders, so this becomes, so our target segment is very clear. We are more into, we don't cater to bhaiya mujhe six pack abs chahiye sort of this thing, but even though we can very well deliver that, but we are positioned more towards a 35 plus age group people, where, as I earlier said, becoming healthy is a must have, looking good is a nice to have.
Nice to have.
Right? It's a nice complementary thing that comes along with it. But we look at it heavily from a fitness, but from a medical understanding of fitness. So we deal with lifestyle disorders, diabetes and its complication, cardiovascular disorders, liver health issues, fatty liver is very, very common now. For women, PCOS, infertility. I mean, lifestyle cuts across all these sectors, all these individual this thing, right? So that's how Nuvo Vivo came into picture. And again, it's not that one fine day I realized that this is what I should do and more. It eventually happened over a period of time, and that's been one of my learning in entrepreneurship. You know, it's like when you go in a train, and when you go, for you're just going straight, right?
Okay.
The train would have taken a left turn, right? You haven't realized, and you will not even realize that you've taken a left turn, right?
okay.
And that's a pivot, according
Yeah,
to me.
yeah.
And when you look back, you would say, "Oh, I did take that turn," right? So pivot is not something that you sit one day and then decide and take.
Yeah.
It happens over a period
Over
of
a
time, just
period of
because you
time, yeah.
kept your ears and eyes and everything open and was receptive to feedback and
Yeah.
what people say. So that's how I kind
So
of
you sort
moved.
of ran this series of experiments, and then as you find things, you find
No, I don't know if I ran experiments. As I earlier said, initially I was that platform that I said,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
puts
yeah.
youngsters
Yeah,
to
yeah.
gym trainers.
Yeah.
Realized when we started getting people more from the 30 plus age group people, I realized that it's a lot more, they come with a real need.
Yeah.
They have a disposable income. If they're convinced, they'll immediately spend money and join the program.
Right.
But their requirement is different.
Okay.
They need little more medical, technical understanding.
Yeah.
So I pivoted again from there, from a mere fitness to a medical fitness. So I had to kind of also bring in the team, registered dietitians and exercise experts. I also had to upskill my knowledge. And then that's how I kind of moved into doing what
from
I'm
being
doing.
an engineer to becoming a finance
Yeah.
professional
Into health
understanding,
now.
into deep health, and then
Yeah.
studying psychology, medical fitness. So I mean, I think the curiosity of your learning is very evident. Rajiv, tell us a little bit about your experience with the PGPM program first. And you were one of the early batches on the, the new campus.
campus,
It was
yes.
just built up, and you were one of the early
Yeah.
batches. So tell us a little bit about your experience living there, studying there.
So we were the second batch at the Manamai campus. And I remember hearing that, so our batch was called Gladiators. And our previous batch had, I think they had some issues with regards to settling down in the hostel because it's a new campus. I've even heard stories of having seen snakes in the campus long back, right? So, but we had a very smooth sail because by the time that we did not have to endure that thing of moving to a new location. So we actually came into a well set up, good lecture halls and hostel rooms and everything. So it was fun. It was really fun studying there. We still remember the time spent at Mahaps, as we call it, Mahabalipuram. The kind of whenever we get breaks, how we go there and come back and then have fun and all that. So yeah, it's nice, nostalgic.
What's your most nostalgic memory from those years?
Oh, so we used to go to this two restaurants there in Mahaps, Nautilus and Moonrakers. The tiger prawns. I'm sure every Great Laker would remember that. And then once in a while we used to go to. I don't know. Somehow we used to be more inclined to go to Pondi than to Chennai because I think it was a lot more easier, faster access.
I think at least it's faster.
Yeah.
Especially now it's even faster. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then, after those case studies and sessions and sometimes, remember sitting next to the Bajaj Bistro.
Yeah.
Is that how we still call it?
We still call it, yeah.
So we used to get our guitar and jam there.
Wow.
This is like around 11:30 at night, 12 o'clock at night.
The nightlife hasn't changed so much, I think,
is
from
it?
what you're telling me now.
I would love to come in
Yeah.
and see and experience all that again. So
Wonderful. So it's always a pleasure talking to you, especially if it's 10, 15 years out of college and then thinking back about all this.
Doesn't
good
feel
times.
like, my God, I feel so old.
Yeah. But tell us a little bit about what got you to Great Lakes. I mean, what were you doing before coming to Great Lakes? Why Great Lakes? Because Great Lakes was a young institute then. So what got you here? So tell us a little bit the journey to Great Lakes.
Okay. So I'm an engineer. I did my engineering. I was working in IT, mostly more like a techno-functional role. I was with GE, very process-oriented job. Then from GE, after around 2 years, moved to HP. I was with HP for around a year. And that's when the Lehman crisis happened. The subprime.
Oh, the subprime
that kind of
crisis, yeah.
And then I got interested. I'm a very curious mind. I got very interested in what is happening with these markets. What are the CBLOs and why did this company fail and this and that? What are the repercussions on the global market and all that? So I got interested reading more about finance, and so I wanted to kind of test the waters, and did few small finance courses. Nifty used to run these courses, NSE.
Yeah,
course.
NSDL and all
Yeah,
that.
I'm not sure if it's still there.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm now into a different field altogether. So I did few such courses, and I really enjoyed it. So I wanted to kind of make a switch. So that's when I thought an MBA and finance would probably be a good idea, and that's how I thought of doing a switch. Luckily, had a good score, very good score, in fact. And I had admits from very few good universities. I had one from XLRI, one from XIMB, Great Lakes, and few more other institutes. Obviously, Great Lakes is one of the very well-reputed college, and I really looked at the money value of time, and in terms of, because it's just 1 year, and if I were to start working from the next 1 year onwards, then I would actually be able to recoup a lot of what I would have, and I will also kind of be a little more probably get 1 year of extra experience. And that's why I chose Great Lakes, and I'm glad I did that.
Oh, wonderful! Yeah. So it's interesting because an engineer getting interested in finance, saying let's do finance MBA, was it scary when you came to campus?
It was because a lot of people have, and rightfully so, have advised me that doing a horizontal shift from an IT, that to a heavy operations processes driven role which I was doing, probably switching to a similar role would have been a lot more easier. But I somehow had this thing in my head that I want finance and nothing else. Maybe, I don't know, a little bit of naivety, a little bit of stubbornness, all that put together. And thankfully, thank God it worked for me. Of course, I did work for it. So the PGPM model, at that time, we didn't have an internship or anything. But I made sure I kind of structured my electives in the second last term such that I'll get some time in between to actually go to Bombay and do 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks sort of an internship. And so I did that.
We still don't have an internship, but we do a lot more live projects.
I know. Yes.
We
had it. The empirical research. That's what.
And that still continues. So it's interesting. So you did all of this. So the big question now to you is: so did you get actually a break into finance? Because you did engineering, you worked in technology. Did finance companies look at you?
Well, my understanding is they do. So for me, I had relevant experience, or rather, I had something to show that I'm really interested in what I'm doing, right? And I had taken the time and effort to go in and do this internship, and it was an equity research firm based in Bombay. So I'd done some work there. So I had something to talk about. So my resume did carry something that genuinely showed my interest. And I was also, to be honest, I was also lucky to. That's also plays a role, right? And also lucky to get such companies to come in and recruit, right? If not for Great Lakes, from there straight away I got into wealth management. That too into the bond desk. I was into the
Wow.
fixed income thing. So which is not every institute would be able to bring in such kind of. And I was with a team who was handling more than 100,000 crores, or more than 100 lakh crores of fixed income assets under advisory, as we call it. So I was part of the team. I actually, because of this, I could join a team which was dealing with large corporates, primarily based in South. As I joined this firm in Chennai, and I used to shuttle between Chennai and Bangalore. So they used to deal with large corporates and how they manage their fixed income, and every quarterly mark to market of these instruments. So I would have to travel down to these companies, sit with the treasury team, and value the bonds and CDs and CPs and debentures, and find the absolute returns and so on and so forth. So it was fun. Yeah.
Very interesting. So for all those students out there who think if you're from a engineering background and if I do a PGPM, will I get a break in finance? As Rajiv just shared with us, I think it's important to demonstrate that you're seriously interested, and there's enough opportunities to actually demonstrate it. It doesn't go just by pure background.
Absolutely,
So that's
yeah.
fantastic to know. What would be your advice to young adults? Students on our campus, students wanting to do MBA, and or people ambitious to grow in consulting and in IT. What's your advice to them? How should they look at this whole long quality of life?
Oh, that's a very deep question. I realized one thing. Being in this field now more than a decade into healthcare, around 30s you will realize that physical health is important. Okay. And you will start increasingly understanding the importance of it. It's like, oh, I'm having this knee pain here. Oh, I'm not able to play as I used to run around. All that will start kicking in and bothering in us. So we'll start realizing it slowly. Around 40s, you will realize, oh, mental health is very, very important, right? And that's invariably how it is for most of the people. Even with my friends, or I interact with a lot of our clients, so I have seen that. But then a healthy mind and a healthy body coexist, right? If you have a healthy mind, when I go to the gym and work out and I sweat like a dog, I feel extremely happy. Right. I mean, we have all read, I'm sure, happy hormones, the endorphins and serotonins and dopamines. But living through it's a different experience altogether. So one of the things which has helped me wade through the extremely strenuous, stressful, because entrepreneurship is not going to be easy.
Yeah,
It's tough,
entrepreneurship is
right?
tough.
It is tough. And I don't know the statistics. Perhaps you might know it better. I think very few percent of the startups actually survive or do at beyond 3 years or 5 years, something like that.
Absolutely,
Right?
absolutely. I don't think that's changing at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this has given me clarity and to keep me sane and sorted, right? So much so that if I don't go to gym for around 3-4 days, my wife tells me, please go to the gym. Otherwise you're going to eat my head.
I think we should ask you about what are those indicators that tell her now it's time
I
for
get very
Rajiv to
cranky.
go to the...
I get very cranky. I get very easily very irritated.
So clear indicators.
Indicators, So and
so you suggest that people should do physical activity.
I mean, having lived through it, I would vouch for it. That it makes a difference.
Yeah.
And when I exercise, I'm a lot more productive. I'm a lot more able to think clearly. Clarity of mind is better. So it makes that thing a lot more easier for.
How did your MBA, your studies, actually help you? Did it? And if yes, how in your entrepreneurship journey?
Oh, yeah. So Uncle Bala used to say, network is your net worth. And I'm like, oh wow, that itself is the whole syllabus of MBA. everything is there in it, right? The people you know, how you build relationships, how you kind of pass it on. And the idea of karma is something that I strongly believe in, because again, the thing that I earlier said, people somewhere helping you with your career,
Yeah.
that has happened with me also. And it's not, and they might be complete total strangers who never, I don't know why did they help me, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah.
And many cases, when I wrote a book which got published in Sharjah Book Fair, the person who actually took the book and helped me get it reached there hasn't not even met me, doesn't even know me, called me up and said that, let me do this for you. So it kind of has helped in all that factors, right? So it is important to kind of define. The comparison is the thief of joy. It kills away that, right? And it's difficult. And I don't think I'm fully equipped to actually come in and say this, because there are moments that even I myself still compare myself. Oh, what if I had taken that HSBC and I moved to London? Probably what life could have been, or maybe I would have been able to do these things, mostly from a financial perspective, okay? Not from the rest of the things that I'm absolutely fine.
What you get is
Right. So time is there, health, how I feel about myself, everything is there, family and everything. So when you look at career, while you run for the rat race, it's great to be ambitious. I'm an extremely ambitious person, but that ambition should not be such that, oh, I want next. But you don't live the current moment and enjoy what you got.
So, I'm just curious to ask this. So, would you suggest our MBA students to start right out of college, or is it a good idea for them to kind of work a little bit, put up some money together, and then start?
Started. Frankly, I do not know. I see advantages on both sides, right? When you start right after college, you can afford to fail a couple of more times, because age is on your side, right? You can afford to do that. Because I left my job at around 30 and started doing this. I don't know, at 40s I probably will have the same willpower to leave the job and then do this, right?
Yeah.
And that's a lot of things that I hear from many of my classmates and friends, that, oh, I can't do it now. I have more things at stake, and child education, this and that, and loan, and so on and so forth. On the other side, if you actually work for some time, you also build a lot of exposure, experience, how to sell something, what works, what doesn't work. And the relationships and the network that you have built is something that you can tap into. So that is the positive side of that. But then, yes, you are missing out on, you're prolonging it probably at 30 or 35. You might have to start. So I see this thing on both the sides.
Okay, quick 2 pieces of advice for current PGPM students on what they should do when they are there on campus. Let me put it this way. What are the 2 things they should not miss doing when they're on campus?
Definitely go to Mahabs and enjoy the tiger prawns. But build friendship, build relationships, network with people, and don't be like a horse with its blinkers. I've done that mistake. I've done that mistakes wherein electives, when I did electives, I took pure hardcore only capital markets. I wish I had taken consumer behavior. I did not.
Okay.
Right. So there are certain papers so be open towards learning, be open towards this thing, and definitely sales and marketing is something that a person should definitely do, at least if not as a main elective, at least some idea of that should definitely be there, because that comes handy not just in your professional life, but also in your personal life. The nuances of how you deal with relationships and people and sell and everything.
And any parting thoughts on, you've been an entrepreneur now for a decade. What are the 2 things as an entrepreneur you should not do in your entrepreneurial journey?
Okay. Don't burn bridges. Right, relationships and this thing. You can't agree with everyone and everything that you hear and say, but don't you don't have to disagree and make a scene out of it. Right? I'm not sure if I've been 100% successful in that, but that's definitely something that I would like to do myself and practice more, and definitely would tell people. Second thing is that be open to learning. Lifelong learning is extremely important, and always leave the teeny tiny possibility that you don't know everything and you could be wrong, right? Because the minute you start thinking that oh, I know everything, or I figured it out. I raised few $1 billion. We have seen enough and more number of the unicorns who have raised few $1 billion and
failed.
reached, and then they kind of fell down, right? So always leave that teeny tiny possibility of this thing and never compare success. Again, something that I'm still trying to learn myself, but that's definitely something that I would tell all entrepreneurs, that do not compare, because your idea of success, the other side of the bush is always green.
Yeah. I think a great piece of advice. One last question. What is the advice you'll give yourself, your younger self, when you are finishing PGPM? What's the one thing you will tell yourself in hindsight, now that you have been 15 years out of PGPM?
I should have invested in stock markets. I myself was a wealth manager, but obviously when I got into startups and everything, I had to pull out a lot of money from personal this thing. So when I look back in Sensex and see how it has grown in the last few years, I was like, oh, if I had invested so much money, at least if I've taken a loan and invested some money in there, probably I would have been sitting on a lot more capital and a lot more comfortable thing. So
Rajiv, absolutely fantastic
Thank you.
talking
Thank
with
you.
you. Pleasure. Our very best wishes that you scale, you really become big and impactful as an entrepreneur.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.